Okay,
Perfect.
sweet.
Anything else you guys need from me?
Have you ever heard me swear?
I don't know if I have.
No, I would like to though.
I almost made him this morning.
Really?
I texted him and I was like, hey, we all set for our training? And he goes, training? Question mark. And I was like,
Ian.
I was like 2 minutes from parking.
I was like literally like,
Your heart dropped.
it did. I tell you, like,
He called me and I just answer and I'm like, did I scare you?
yeah, literally. Oh, we got 6 people in the waiting room already.
Okay, well, I'm gonna jump off because I
You're
have
not saying anything?
I have a Zoom I have to prep for.
This is pretty hard.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's recorded. I can watch it.
That source, and if they drop, I'm gonna make you listen to the recording, or I'm gonna turn
That's
you
fine.
off.
I'll take it. That's no issue on my end.
So we got up to 8 people. Let's go.
It's busy.
Our average attendance has been like 3 for the summer since people are.
Really?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Should start letting people in.
Sure.
What is up, everyone?
Look at this squad.
I would love, so I really want to make this a bit collaborative with people jumping in with questions, and so if you don't mind turning on your camera, we would both super appreciate that.
So, my hair is a mess.
Kelly, how are you?
Yo, my hair is a mess.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Bedhead happening.
Just throw a hat on, Josh.
Adam, how are you today?
Doing well, thanks.
Awesome. Danielle, thanks for joining. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just mid putting makeup on and then I'll turn my camera on, okay?
Perfect. There we go. He's got the sideways hat.
Perfect.
Amy, how are you today?
And that just feels weird.
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Awesome. And Taylor, how are you today?
Good.
Perfect. Gabby, thanks for joining. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
Hi.
And we got a couple more people in the waiting room. Trevor, I am super pumped that you're here. It was great to meet with you yesterday. And
was.
Where is the waiting
On my
room?
desktop right now, so I don't have my mic.
What
I can
display?
switch,
Oh,
or
there.
not mic, my camera. Sorry.
Sweet.
You're good, man.
Hey, Nick, thanks for joining today.
Nick, my sweet, sweet boy, I miss you.
Yeah.
I do.
And Sonia, so glad that you're able to join today.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now I can hear you. I'm happy to be here.
You know, this is the first time that I think we've ever talked face to face. So
I can't hear you.
I think this is the first time
I
we've
know.
ever...
I'm actually just kidding.
We're trying.
Are we lagging a little bit?
I know. I'm actually just getting ready to go do a showing. Just got a Zillow call just a little bit ago. Can you guys
Let's
hear me?
go.
Yep. So I'm just getting ready to go do one.
Awesome. So I am posting just a little bit of the conversation that we're going to be having today. Just posted the outline in the chat. I would love if a couple of you could jump in there and just drop objections that you've been having, or any sort of situation that's been coming up with you before the initial appointment. And Ian and I, as well as the rest of the amazing Premier agents that are in this chat, will do our best to speak to that. So
Awesome.
just throughout the time, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in or just drop them in the chat there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. But first off, so today we are fully focused on the ALM score as well as CSAT and basically anything to do with up to the initial appointment. And Ian and I will be talking about that. Ian has probably some of the best scores on our team with, I think, 100% ALM rate. And so he follows the script every single time. The Zillow AI picks up on it each time. And his CSAT, I think, is around 96. So people like you.
People love me. I could go on and on about that, but yeah, we'll just kind of talk about best practice for that first Zillow call and really what Zillow looks for too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, we can talk a little bit too about, because I feel like we get the questions a lot too. You know, I feel like I should ask if they have an agent. I feel like I should ask about financing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that a little bit after kind of this first initial call.
Mm-hmm.
So could just kind of want to dive right into that.
Yeah. So starting out with ALM, the number one thing that it looks for is seeing that you ask the question within the first 30 seconds of the call to see the appointment. As long as you do that every single time, you're going to have 100% ALM rate. And we've seen a high connection between CSAT scores and as far as appointment set scores and that ALM. There's they coincide quite a bit. So
do you want to explain why it's important too?
Yeah. Well, actually, I would love for you to speak to that a little bit with that.
Well, yeah. So I think something to keep in mind too is the reason we want to keep our Zillow numbers high is because they're going to give us more leads. The higher our conversion rates are, higher our CSAT score is, higher our ALM score is. Mm-hmm. So all of these scores matter. And how many trainings are you going to be doing over the course? Is it
so this is week one of a 3-part series. Next week is going to be fully focused on the initial appointment and moving them from met with customer into the showing home status. So best practices with that. And then we are taking a week off because that week is the week of the Tom Ferry training and a lot of agents are going to be out of town. That week, we're going to be fully focused on showing homes and submitting offers. So getting to the point where you're actually actively working with a client and putting in offers. So that will be this week is week one. Next week, we're doing week 2. And then we're taking a week off and having the final one where Jelena will be hosting that. And we'll be having the final week in 4 weeks from now. Well, yeah, I think. I'll post the dates for that in Slack today. But yeah, Ian, as far as handling that initial conversation, tell me a little bit about that conversation flow.
Yep. So I know we spoke about it in the team meeting a little bit too, but my initial call, it's usually a minute and a half, 2 minutes at most, unless somebody really wants to talk. Mm-hmm. So what's really important for that ALM score is just setting that appointment and then pretty much hopping off the phone. And so really what the call looks like is me answering right away and just saying, hey, this is Ian Howe with eXp Realty. I saw you inquired about 123 Main Street here in Excelsior, and you wanted to see this property today at 4 o'clock. Is that correct? And they say, yes, that's correct. Great, I'm going to go ahead and get this property pulled up. I'm going to get that showing booked for us. While I do that, could you tell me a little bit more about your home search and how that's been going? And they'll either give me a little bit of information and, obviously we can have a conversation from there. Sometimes they really open up. And if they do talk a lot, that's great. Have that conversation, talk as much as they really want to. But the majority of the time, people just want that appointment set. Like I said, too, in the team meeting, Parker's preached it. Mike Shaw's preached it. If you were on those trainings too, just set that appointment. That's what they want. And then from there, it's setting that appointment and then hopping off the phone. And how I end the call too, I think is important too. I say, I'm going to shoot you a quick text from my personal cell phone number. That way you can save my name to the number and you don't have to deal with any other customer service representatives or anything like that. That's just a little seed I like to plant. I feel like it builds rapport and I'm doing them a favor. I'm providing a little bit of value without them kind of knowing it. And then as soon as we hop off the phone, I shoot them a text and I say, it's great to connect with you. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the property. Here's my name and number. And And then usually from there, I'll call them back with either a little bit more information about the property, or, sometimes I know we see it a lot in this fast-paced market, the property is either pending or under contract. And I take that second call to have that conversation. And I feel like it's a lot easier and people are a lot more open to having that conversation when they've connected with you now a couple times, even if it's within a 10-minute span. So I'm having that initial call, setting the appointment. We're talking then, that's our first point of contact. Conversation over, I send them another text from my personal cell phone number. That's the second point of contact. And then from there, I'm calling them again and then digging a little bit deeper into their home search if they didn't really open up to me on that first call. And that's where I feel like I can build a little bit more rapport. And obviously the majority of the rapport building is the face-to-face appointment, whether it's the showing or the consultation or whatever that is. So the reason my ALM score is really high is because I really dictate where that conversation goes. I keep it short. I give the client what they want, which is to get in and schedule that showing. And I end it from there.
On top of that, I did want to share in September, Zillow is rolling out a program called Best of Zillow Badge. We've talked to you about it a couple times in Slack and in team meeting, but basically on your public Zillow profile, it's a little badge that basically says Ian Howe, Best of Zillow. One of the things they measure in that is your ALM rate. And this is maybe one of the reasons why we're pushing it this much is one, because we see people be successful when they're using it. And two, it allows you to qualify for that Best of Zillow badge and have that little bit of clout on your Zillow profile. Ian, let's say you and I had an initial call. We talked for about a minute and a half and you want to call me back to confirm the appointment. Can we just quick roll call what that conversation would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So ring, ring.
Hey, this is Joe.
Hey, Joe, it's Ian with EXP Realty here again. I'm just giving you a call. I just wanted to let you know that property you had inquired about and wanted to see, it's actually under contract, unfortunately. But I did find a couple properties that are similar. I want to make sure those really match your criteria. Could you tell me just a little bit more about exactly what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we were just kind of interested in this one home here that showed up, but it's not available.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's under contract. I mean, what specifically attracted you to this property? What made you interested in this one?
Yeah, I mean, we really liked the way that looked. We liked the inside of the house.
Perfect. The interior of it, was it the open concept? Was it the big kitchen island? What features are you guys looking for?
Yeah, good question. I think it was just maybe the overall design. It had a more modern look to it. And that's just something that we've been looking to. We don't want to do a lot of work on our next home.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. So you don't want to do a lot of work. You like the design on this one. I do have a couple options that I think could be a good fit. I'm going to send those over to you. I'm actually going to do a little bit more prospecting for you as well. I'll see what else I can find that's similar. I'll send it your way. And if you two find something that you want to take a look at, and if you want to schedule a showing, great. If not, I'll keep sending you properties until we find the right one for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian.
So,
Ian, how do you go from converting, basically sending a person to an email to actually going and seeing a home with them in this situation?
Yeah, so I think something to remember too is don't force the appointment. I don't necessarily. I know some people say set that appointment no matter what, get them in a coffee shop, do the consultation, but genuinely, some people just don't want that. They want to see the property. They want to find something that matches their criteria. They want to see a property that is actually going to fit their needs. They don't want to, meet me for coffee when they don't know me yet. So that's where us realtors really have to do our job, and we have to actually listen to what the client wants, what their needs are, and then get to work, do some prospecting, actually find them some good options to get them into the property to go see these houses. And I feel like I do a really good job of getting them set up on an MLS search too, to make sure that that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me. And then obviously we have a very big team, very big brokerage. We have resources through Raven to find those other off-market opportunities as well. So if you're the agent that is not pushing and not super salesy, as we probably call it, people pick up on that really quick. And people just, they don't want to be sold, right? They have their own agenda, and their agenda is finding that property that they want for either themselves or their family. And so that's the value I feel like I provide. I don't care about if they, you know, signing a buyer representation document right away. I don't care about meeting them face to face right away. You know, it's providing that value, finding them properties that match their criteria. And if I'm doing my job correctly, I am going to meet them at the property, and I'm going to do it in a pretty short amount of time. So that's really the approach I take.
You're a problem solver.
Right.
It's really what
we
we
do.
Can I ask a question? It's Danielle.
Yeah, please.
So you guys, when do you introduce the idea of auto email search for homes, signing them up for one home?
Right. So I like to take the approach. I almost kind of trick them. I'm like, I say, I'm gonna do some prospecting for you, and I'm gonna send you a list of properties. What's the best email address for me to send properties to for you?
Yeah, that's what I do too. Yep.
Yep, exactly. Set them up on that MLS search, and then send it their way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
I also tell them too right away. I'm like, I say, hey, just sent you that list of properties. Let me know if you'd like me to make any initial adjustments to your search, because the last thing I want is to have, for some reason, miss something, or, you know, maybe that search doesn't match their criteria exactly. And if you're bombarding them with properties that aren't relevant to what they're looking for, they're going to unsubscribe. And then they're probably going to stop talking to you too, because they're going to be like, you know, they might feel like you're not sending them what they told you they wanted.
Sure.
So it's important to keep a close pulse on that too. Make sure you're in their search, sending them properties, and then also just having a dialogue about the criteria in which that search is set up for.
And are you only sending via email properties to people, or are you texting them their way as well? Or
so I will email them the property that I usually find through the MLS, and then I will either call them or text them.
Gotcha.
And have a conversation about the property that I found for them.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on that point, or any even additional feedback that you want to offer on just this subject right now?
Yeah, actually, Ian, this is Amy.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, once you get them set up in the MLS and whatnot, like how closely are you monitoring that? And like, are you reaching out to them if they're, you know, if you can look and see that they're looking at their daily houses and you're reaching out and they're kind of lukewarm, or how do you follow up with that? Like, what's your procedure?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm keeping a very close pulse on that. I actually have every single search that I have in my MLS. I have it set up so every time they log into their search, I get an email notification for that. I know some people would find that pretty annoying, and it can kind of your email a little bit, but it's a good way to keep a pulse on things. And at the very least, you know, I mean, you just have to sorry. At the very least, you just have to clear your notifications. And then Joe, turn that off. Jeez, what's wrong with you? Sorry.
No. I would love for you to show me how to do that, or let us know. That's very cool. I wouldn't mind that at all.
We could potentially film a video after this, just doing a walkthrough that we could send out to Slack.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to know too, you guys, tell me a little bit about how the initial call is going for you guys. Do you guys have any questions about that initial call? Any feedback, any opinions? Like, what do you guys got? What do you want to talk about?
I guess Danielle, this is Danielle again. I have a question. So you say you set the appointment, whereas like in Mike Shaw's training, a lot of the verbiage with ALM was, I'm going to go ahead and check that property out, and I'm going to try to set up the appointment, and then I'll call you back to confirm. So do you leave the conversation like the appointment is set, or do you do I'm going to call you back and confirm?
Yeah, so I do a little bit of both. It depends. I know we're not supposed to maybe look up the property while you're on the call too. I actually do that a lot, but I always set that appointment. And so usually if I see it's pending, I'll take the direction, hey, I had the showing request out. I'll let you know as soon as it's confirmed. And that's when I call back and say it's under contract.
Okay, perfect.
I feel like, because that direction can look, it can look a little bad if I say the showing's confirmed, we're all set, and then I call back and then say, hey, we're not all set. Mm-hmm. So I take that approach, and then if I see the property's available, I'll usually say, hey, showing's confirmed. I'm going to shoot you a quick text, you know, with my name and number, and then I'm still following up with a second phone call to just say, hey, I just sent you the seller's disclosure. Hey, I saw, you know, a couple other properties in the neighborhood that might be a good fit too. Is it okay if I send those to you? So I'm still having those 3 points of contact: the initial call, the text, and then the follow-up call.
If the property isn't pending, can we roll call through what you would just say to me quick, just to show them kind of what that conversation looks like?
If the property isn't pending, and
yeah,
we're all
like if
set,
you set the appointment, like how's that conversation go? Because I know you said you're looking for
with the first call or the
second call.
Okay, with the second call, yeah. So like I said, it depends what information I find too. So I'll call and I'll say, yeah, I'll pick up the phone and say, ring ring.
Hey, this is Joe.
Hey, Joe, it's Ian with EXP again. I just wanted to call, let you know we're all set for today at 4 o'clock. I did find a couple other properties that I think might match your criteria. Would it be okay if I sent those to you?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Okay, what's the best email address for you? And once again, that's another hook to get them set up on an MLS search. And it's just another, they don't realize you're building rapport through that, but it's another value add that you're doing. Everything I've done for them so far is a favor I've done for them, right? It's the first one, that first call, like I said, you're setting that appointment and giving the client what they want. You're scheduling that showing for them. And then, like I said, when I finish up that call too, I'm having that conversation saying, I'm doing you a favor by having you save my name to the number. That way you don't have to deal with anybody else, because people don't want to be bombarded. Like I said in that team meeting too, people really do see you on that first call as a customer service representative. How often do you guys have that initial call and people are really rude? They can be short to you. You meet them at the property and they're nothing but nice. It's because they see you as a human after you get in front of them. So leaving that first conversation really short is one of the best things you can do, because from there, that second text and then the second call, you've now connected with them 3 times. So it really makes you human to say, you've talked to this one person 3 separate times now. They really start to just see you differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nick, are you able to unmute at all? Would love to have you speak about what you just dropped in the chat, but all right if you're not able to. I think
great point, Nick.
I think he might be unavailable. Let's connect to my screens.
That's okay.
Fair enough. Awesome. Well, I think what you're saying is basically being able to go into detail on what you have to offer. I'm assuming, Ian, do you go into that on the second call, on the first appointment, or because I know you've talked a lot about keeping that first call really short? Yeah. So I really like to keep I really like to keep things really conversational. If I don't like to poke and pry, but I save a lot of that for that face-to-face meeting. They don't always want to talk about financing. They don't always want to talk about, XYZ on that first or second call. So it is important to get them into the property, have that face-to-face conversation, and just say, hey, have you guys had the opportunity to look into financing just yet? And, start having those conversations from there, because it's really easy to build rapport with someone face-to-face. And especially if I've saved the bulk of the questions that I want answers for to pre-qual them. If I save those for that face-to-face conversation, they don't know it, but we're building that rapport the entire time. And you can still pre-qual them over the phone, but it's not the same experience for the client. It's not. Clients want a human interaction. They need somebody in the business that they can trust. And that's what that face-to-face appointment provides. So the quicker you can set that appointment to get to that face-to-face, to have that face-to-face conversation, I mean, that's where you can really have success and really have high conversion rate. Amy, I know you have a really high conversion rate too. Maybe you can speak to that. I mean, what's your approach to getting in front of clients?
I'm trying to take my mute off. It's a little loud over here. Yeah, actually, I think it's really interesting. A lot of the things that you do, Ian, I also do. Sure. So the one thing that I don't do, and my ALM rate is not as good, is that I don't keep the calls short. Sometimes I let people kind of ramble on, but I almost book the appointment. So I'm kind of curious about that. Anyway, yeah, I think, yes, I take the call, I make the appointment. I do look up the properties, but if it's contingent, I don't reveal in the phone call. I I do look for other properties. I text them. I always give them my personal information. I'm just like, hey, you know, if you find other properties that you like, or if something in your schedule changes, I want you to be able to get a hold of me directly and not have to go through the rigmarole of customer service. So I'm going to send you a text. That's my direct information. They seem really appreciative of that.
Right.
And they have a direct conduit to me at all times. And I find that I've had people that I've put on nurture and kind of forgotten about, and like they'll text me like 6 months later because they have my number. So I'm always glad to do that. I've only regretted it once. And it's, pretty good odds. And as far as, I wait for all of the things that you're saying until we're in person, unless they really clearly want to unpack that on a phone call. I do ever turn that down if that's the conversation that you want to have, but I keep notes. And then when I meet you in person, I make sure that we expand on that. And I let you know that my value add is that, I know what you're talking about. And if I don't, I know the right people to connect you to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And let me be very clear. If the customers want to talk and open up to you on that first call, obviously let them have that conversation. That they want to talk to you about financing, talk to them about financing. If they're initiating that conversation, of course, be that resource for them to have that conversation with them.
I know you mentioned that you usually, and Jen, I want to come to what you said in just a second, but just kind of wrap up this one subject we've been talking about. I know you mentioned that that you kind of wait until being in person to bring up pre-approval.
Yep.
What about asking if they've been working with an agent? Where do you fit that into the process?
Yeah, so there's ways to ask that question without saying, are you working with an agent? Usually the conversation is, tell me a little bit more about your home search. Have you guys looked at a lot of properties since you started, or is this your first one? And if they're like, yeah, we've been looking around for a year, I'll usually say, oh, have you guys, been working with an agent with those previous showings? And, having those conversations from there, because you can ask a lot of questions where they are going to open up to you. And you can figure out pretty quick if they've been working with another agent, if they, haven't touched their financing yet. Just asking those questions about how their home search is going. What are they looking for? How does your timeline look? They'll open up and give you a lot of information about kind of those key points in which they need to have in place to purchase a home and for us to be able to help them.
So are you doing that on that second call, on that follow-up call, or on the initial one?
Yeah, not necessarily. I usually have that conversation. Like I said, I save the bulk of my questions for that in-person appointment. If I get any sense that they've been looking around for a long time, if they might have an agent, I am asking that question on the second call. And also, just to be clear too, to keep your ALM score up, you just need to set that appointment right away. It's okay to have these conversations outside of that initial Zillow call, right? None of us want to go around on showings with customers who are stringing us along. They have agents, maybe their credit score is 400. We need to know if their financing is in order. We need to know if they've been working with an agent. We need to know these things, but it's a conversation to save for outside of that recorded Zillow call. So keep those scores up. And then obviously, do what you can to convert the lead from there. So it's okay to have those conversations outside, but also going back, I do save the majority of my questions for them for that in-person meeting.
Along with ALM scores, the other thing we've been talking about, CSAT, the way that Zillow measures that is after the call. I think they get a message 1 day after the call, 30 days after the call, and 90 days after the call. And basically it says, how was your experience with this agent? And it gives them 5 smiley faces. And so hopefully we're getting that number 1 smiley face. And even if they're already signed with an agent and their agent is just out of town, we don't want that person going in and clicking the number 1 smiley face for their call with you. So just being polite, being courteous, just being like really empathetic with, yes, absolutely. So with you already being in contract with an agent, the best practice here is to reach out to your agent. If they're not available, they should have a partner agent who should be able to show that home for you. But Jen, I would love for you to speak to what you just dropped in the chat a second ago.
So I've kind of been off Zillow for a while just because I was really high into a lot of my personal leads that I've been doing the last couple months. So I shut it down so that I would not be taken away from the team on the lead. So I'm getting ready to ramp that back up. But one of the things that I've been really successful in is if it's contingent, get it booked on that first appointment. And then, sorry, I'm sick. On that second appointment, you can usually feel out and tell the ones. If it is somebody who is really just doesn't care, wants that appointment, I don't always tell them it's contingent because a lot of times they can end up seeing it or they don't care. But if they bring it up, I go ahead and schedule it regardless, and talk to. So in that few minutes, I try to see right away, can we get in? Is it show and go? Because if it's contingent on inspection and it's show and go, let's go in and see it anyway. It's vacant. We're not imposing on anybody. If it's not vacant, I'll text the agent real quick. Hey, I just put in an appointment. We'd love to see it for a backup option because how many of us have had issues where, I just had an issue 2 weeks before closing where, we had a buyer that backed out, that couldn't get their financing. So it's happening more and more now. In that second conversation, if I can tell that they are totally receptive to that kind of thing, I'll tell them, hey, the house is contingent, but let's go see it anyway. And here's why. Homes, we're having issues all the time where a buyer is backing out post inspection. And if that happens, we want to be the first one. If this is truly the house you love, we want to be the first ones in and the first ones that they think about. So let's go see it anyway. And by the way, there are 2 other properties right around the corner. So we're going to go see those 2. So let's, just knock out an hour at a time. Let's go see a couple of them. And I tell them, even if that house is a no, it usually will tell us something good. In every no, there's something, whether it's, I hate the kitchen, but I love the layout. Oh, look, I thought I liked 4-level splits, but I don't. I actually only want a rambler with a basement. So that's one thing I carry in all of my sales is that, by the way, whatever you tell me in your search that you love, I am going to once a week, maybe twice a week, send you an off the cuff one that that I know you would never pick. I can't tell you, probably 8 out of 10 times that's the house that my buyers are going under contract in. So that's our job in this market, is to really push them and lead them. And that was what I was saying in the other comment that I made. In the beginning of being a real estate agent, I wanted to be everybody's friend. I hated sales. I actually don't love sales. I don't want to be that person. And in the beginning, I wasn't that person. And while I was successful, I was not as quickly successful. It took me a lot more time because I was too busy trying to be their friend. Now, my job is to lead you, and my job is to sell you a home. And once you put that shift in, that is our job, is to send them. I love the one with the ugly pictures. Oh, you won't want to see it because it's got ugly pictures. Great. That's actually the one we're heading to today. Let's go. And I just make the appointment, tell them what time we're going, and we go. So there's always something to be learned in all of them. So once you get there face to face, then usually that's where, the value add is.
Yeah, I love that approach you take too, to set that expectation that it is under contract, but this could still be a really good option for us. And just to be clear too, if you are looking at properties that are under contract, you need to set those expectations with your clients though, and have that conversation, because if you just showed up and said, yeah, let's go book it, just so we can meet face to face, and then, they might want to write an offer and you're like, oh, sorry, it's under contract. It's just a backup offer.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'll always tell them.
Right.
Yeah. I'll always tell them, unless it is one that, let's say it's, it's appointment in 2 hours from now. Right. And I didn't love this approach, but I'm not going to lie, it worked. At a previous team that I was at, we still went, we still made the appointment, right? Because the value add is getting there face to face, right? So sometimes what we would do is say, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry. I was on the way here, found out it, went pending. But hey, let's go 2 blocks away. Follow me. And they usually do go, because now you're there with them and you're saying, hey, come on, follow me to the next one. Let's go. And they're like, okay, we're out already. And it does work. it takes a lot of getting comfortable. So it is nicer now that we have the approval to kind of say, because back then we didn't. It was you had to go no matter what. So sometimes you've got those short windows and you have to make a split decision, you know, but if you could see that it's, you know, just went on and contingent on inspection and it's only been on the market 2 days, the odds are they probably haven't even done the inspection yet. So you kind of really have to, it's kind of like no one plays in sports, right? You kind of need to know which play you're throwing in at the moment, because if we're just day 2 on the market and they want to see it and the odds are they haven't done the inspection, I'm trying to get in there however I can get in there, because there's a good chance maybe I could, I mean, maybe they haven't even done the inspection the next day. Now I've already established a relationship with that listing agent, and that buyer's agent comes in and asks for 20 different things on the inspection report. Guess who they're calling? They're calling the agent now that they have already conversed with, that as a possible backup, that, hey, we're not going to nitpick you. We want in if something goes wrong, and we want to be the first one you think of, not any of the 4 other people that might have written an offer. And it works. So you kind of have to know which play to throw in on which day, if that makes sense.
Sure. Jelena, you wanted to jump in? You had something to say?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm
Yeah.
not
Yes.
sure if you can. Okay, good. So I had major issues with my ALM score back in the winter. Like in one day, I got an email saying, hey, your conversion rate's amazing. We want to get you more leads. And by the end of the day, I had an email basically saying, your metrics suck. And we need you to focus on ALM. Right. So that's when I decided to dive deep and get as much information as possible. And I reached out to our rep to learn kind of the behind the scene things that they were not telling us about what they are looking for. Does everybody know that there is a bot that listens to that conversation in the first 60 seconds?
First 30 seconds.
30 seconds now. Okay. It used to be 60 seconds. Maybe they're looking for 30 seconds. So you have that timeline as a marker, and as you're practicing some of the tactics and approaches that are being discussed today, I want you to keep that time frame in mind. And if you take the initial approach that Ian is using, you can hit those first 3 markers within that first 30 seconds and then develop the conversation from there. And I believe, Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's roughly 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes is the marker that they're looking for a cutoff of the conversation. So if you need to do some kind of practice for yourself and how you're having those initial conversations, work with those 2 sets of time frames, set a stopwatch or something for yourself while you're doing a couple practice runs with your scripting, aim for those first 3 targets in that 30 seconds. And then from there, picture how you would extend a conversation and get those basic principles you're looking for, information on the client's need within 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes at the maximum, and save the rest for that follow-up conversation.
Yeah.
Also on top.
I have a question to piggyback off of Jelena. Jelena, did you have to sign up to get an email with metrics from Zillow telling you that you needed to improve? Because I'm not getting emails like that.
No, I did not. And that is actually now what Joe and I focus on a lot every week. It's the responsibility of the team to provide that information. And we meet every Monday at 9 o'clock now, so we can review the information from the previous week. And our goal is focused, specialized training. And we're wanting to highlight people who have kind of like the highest marks, which is why Ian is the expert speaking to this today. He's knocking it out of the park. And so going forward, we want to give you some tips so that you can kind of change your approach to things. And then you're going to see improvement week after week after week as we're able to send those out to you.
And then one other question. Can I see my ALM score in my Zillow metrics?
So ALM
in the app, because I can see conversion rate and things like that, but can you see ALM is the question.
I don't think we have the ability to look for that yet on the app, but it might be going that way.
It's coming. It's on that Best of Zillow report. However, that thing is still being rolled out by Zillow right now. Every agent should have access to it and be able to see it, but most of the time it hasn't been working. It hasn't been populating the score. However, Jelena and I are going to start sending out some team metrics probably in the month of September. We wanted to work with those metrics a little bit, learn a little bit about them, and then start sending them out to the team on a monthly basis, or even a bi-monthly if that would be more helpful. So we'll start sharing that with the team. But for now, there isn't a fresh way to see it on the Zillow app.
Our new rep is also providing a much higher level of data to us than maybe previous reps, and everyone we've had so far has been great, but it allows us to look at things on the micro level, because each of you is doing, you know, fantastic in certain areas. We just want to pinpoint the 1 or 2 areas that will take your conversion rate, you know, off the charts, basically. That's why you're part of this group today. If you just focused on these 1 or 2 areas with that initial call, and then the follow-up score for conversation quality or customer service score, it's going to open up more leads to you, and it's going to take your conversion rate off the charts. And that's what we want. I mean, Ian, talk about how many contracts you've gotten now in the last like month. I think you're at 8 pending or something like that. So like clearly, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm at 8 pending. I mean, yeah, my conversion rate is pushing 12% now. Just got another Zillow Flex under contract. And just so you guys know too, these aren't unicorns. I think the last 3 or 4 that I pended, one is 7 months, one's 8 months back, one is more than 12 months back. A lot of these clients just, they need to be nurtured. So yes, it's important to get in front of them and have that face-to-face appointment, but make sure you're following up with these leads too. I'm sure, Jelena, I'm sure we have maybe a training on that, or that's maybe another conversation, but be sure to follow up with these leads, because there are a few agents that follow up well and do it for the long term. And I mean, if you do it on a consistent basis, there should be no reason why every single person on this team shouldn't have a conversion rate of 10+%. These leads are great leads. They're people calling that want to meet with you at a property and actually go physically see a property. These leads are gold. And you need to continue to follow up with them too, because most people don't buy the first house that they see. They just don't. So it's important to make sure everything's up to date and follow up boss. Make sure you're having those follow-up calls. Make sure you're providing that value that we talked about too. Get them set up on an MLS search, but let that do a little bit of the lifting, but make sure you're doing your job too and listening to the client, figuring out exactly what they want, and then going out and finding that property for them. And you're going to be the person that they come to when they pause their search for 6 months and then they give you a call back. That's where the gold is, and that's where your conversion rates go through the roof.
And Ian, what's your follow-up look like with leads?
It totally depends. I mean, it depends on the client. And initially, I'm following up. If they don't tell me that they paused their search or anything like that, I'm sending them every property that I think could be a good fit for them, so I can get them out and looking, right? I'm dangling that carrot, getting them out into as many properties as I really can that would be a good fit for them. And also, I mean, the clients that say, hey, call me in 6 months, I'm calling them in 2. Hey, you know, call me back next month. I'm giving them a call in 2.5 to 3 weeks. Anything that they tell you, cut that in half. You need to stay top of mind with these people. And all you have to do is, you know, it's a quick check-in, right? And just making sure that they still have your number saved and that you're still saying, hey, I know you were going to pause your search until this spring, but I found this property and I thought of you. I want to send it your way. Let me know what you think. Just all those little touches, they add up. So when the time does come for them to purchase, they think of you and they're calling you.
You're establishing that on your first phone call. He's setting the tone for the kind of service he's going to deliver with that first phone call. And that's why people will continue to come back to him. And then you nurture those leads and they're going to want to work with you. So I think that's why that first step is so critical. And those two pieces go hand in hand. You have your ALM score at first, making sure we're getting the face-to-face, and also the customer service or satisfaction score at the end of that is he's delivering on giving the client what they need. And that's a direct connection to his tone and the type of questions that he's asking, and making it about the client, not about himself. And then the follow-up process from there is where the conversion happens.
Exactly. Yeah. And you only get one chance at a first impression. So it's
right.
That Zillow they have ALM in place because it works, right? I know we all have our own spin on things. We all take our different approach, but ALM works, and that's why they require it. It's really important to conversion. And then obviously the following steps on top of that is even, you know, it's arguably just as important, right?
100%. And Ian, how are you using Follow Up Boss in your follow-up protocol with leads?
Every single lead I have in Follow Up Boss has a reminder. And I mean, how many of you are using Follow Up Boss or some CRM to track your leads? How are you guys following up with your leads?
Has to be Follow Up Boss. If you're not answering that question, I'm using Follow Up Boss. That is one major change that you can make today. Because when we look at the stages of the leads and how they are progressing down and being taken care of, they're being serviced and nurtured. Following that process in Follow Up Boss is how we can see that timeline is being met. So if you're not doing what Ian's doing, this is, a major takeaway from today is start doing that immediately so that we can see that they're moving through the stages. And then I don't want to cut you off, Ian. Maybe you two, you and Joe can talk about this, but Joe, the plans that we've built out now in Follow Up Boss and how that is designed to simplify the way that we're nurturing leads and really give back time to the agent. Ian, I'm not sure if you're using those or not, but Joe, maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Ian has been doing an awesome job of using them. And that's one of the reasons I called on him a second ago in regards to that, or brought that up a second ago. So yeah, using that task section, using those action plans in there, those were developed by Jelena and I for our team, and they're specially developed for you guys to use. And so that right now we have 3 plans. We've launched 2 of them. We're launching the 3rd one this week. We have a 6 to 12 month plan and a 12+ month plan. Really what this is going to do is it's just going to simplify the process as far as how often you should be reaching out to them. It's going to automatically send out emails. It has text templates ready to be sent in the CRM that are ready to go. And as long as you're keeping on task at the top of your task list, you'll be killing it in your database. And that's the goal. We are rolling out this week. We're calling it 10 days of pain. For any lead that ghosts you, for any lead that you don't end up meeting in person, apply this 10 days of pain action plan to them. It runs for a couple days, has 10 different steps where it's sending emails, it's sending texts, it's sending calls. If you get all the way through that plan and they haven't gotten back to you, that's one that really we should be dumping back into the past Zillow lead pond, because you guys are killer agents and we want you guys working with leads who are going to be somewhat responsive. And we have a responsibility to go after leads. I mean, Parker's paying for all these leads for us and expecting a return on that. And that means that we're doing our due diligence to reach out to them. We're doing our diligence to call them, to text them, to email them. But once you've called them 5 times, once you've sent them 3 or 4 emails and multiple texts and they haven't gotten back to you, we want you working with active clients. We want you working with people who are going to get back to you. And so this is going to be our new protocol for as far as rejecting leads that you haven't met in person yet. And so again, that's called 10 days of pain. I'll be sending out a video later, either tonight or tomorrow, about what that plan involves, as well as where it is in the system. But Jelena and I are super excited to launch that. And we hope that you guys are able to find some value with it.
I think it's going to be great. Ian, if you're using plans,
thank you guys.
Can you talk at all about how that has maybe changed kind of like the way that you're allowed to, it enables you to take more leads because you have a certain amount of the content automated and saving you time. How is that helping your business where you can be focusing on forward facing with your active clients and allowing kind of those things to happen behind the scenes?
Absolutely. I mean, it does the heavy lifting for you for clients that aren't looking to purchase right away, right? So it still allows you to touch those leads and provide value to them while you can still focus on those clients that are very active and very responsive. And the one thing I would mention with that too is it's a great tool. It's amazing to have in place, and you need to be sure that every single one of your leads is either on a plan, that they are on a plan and that they have a reminder set for you to call them at some point. Don't totally rely on the automated system to do all of the lifting for you. You need to still be reaching out to them personally as well. Whether that's, one call every 3 months because of whatever their timeline is, you need to make sure that you're still doing that and having those conversations with those clients. And then, yeah, like we kind of said, it's a fantastic tool to still engage people and keep you top of mind, because that's the goal, right? Like we said, whenever they are ready to buy, we want them to think of you.
Yep. Yeah.
And Ian, going back to your kind of like you're hot right now in the market, right? Like you've been working systematically these leads, and you said at least one of them you had been working for 7 months. What's kind of like the average time frame for the leads that you've been converting? How long since the initial contact?
It's a good question. Honestly, I mean, I probably 6+ months. It really is. I can go back and I could take screenshots and show you guys. I mean, I'm thinking back to the one I got under contract yesterday. He was one of the first leads I got on the team when I started in May last year. So he's like 15 months, a 15-month-old lead. And then the two before that, one is 7 months, and the other one I know is 12+ months. I think they're 13 months or something like that, 13 months back. It's a long-term game. It is.
Right.
And it's a long-term game, but if you're waiting for them to call you, or you're calling them once a year, they will not remember you and they will slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
They will. So you need to be diligent about making sure your follow-up boss and your CRM is up to date. If there's 2 things that you guys do today, one, it's, focus on that ALM. If you guys ever wanted to script practice that, obviously feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to do that. It's a great way to just ensure that you guys are keeping those scores up so you get more leads and we get better leads as a team.
Yep.
And then it's also going into follow-up boss and making sure every single one of your leads that you think is going to purchase or sell has a reminder, and that any leads that you want to get rid of, talk to Joe, and make sure your CRM is cleaned up, right?
Yep.
So you can focus on those leads that you think are, you're confident that they're going to be doing business with you.
Keep it clean. I know.
Thank you. Can I just add one quick thing? I'm sorry, Joe. Ian, I appreciate your talking about the timeline, because if any, I think everybody on this call today, maybe except for Adam, was part of our Zillow conversion training we had in the spring with Mike Shaw. And one of the statistics he brought up was like 38% of all the leads we are getting are going to convert at 8 months plus. I believe that was the number, right? Mm-hmm. You think about that, that's like more than a third of all leads wanting to convert after 8 months. And so we have to kind of change our tactic and approach and remember that the lead we get today, yes, we want to be working with active leads, but if we're nurturing them correctly, they are a sale 8 to 12 months from now, and you are building your pipeline and your stream of sales for next year. And that's going to be really important as we come into spring too. Invest into yourself.
I just wanted to mention, I think Josh is doing a great job. He's starting to use Follow-Up Boss for active clients. He's giving them a call once a week. He's sending multiple, twice a week. He's sending homes through Home Spotter out to clients. And so any client that has been active, he's been starting to do that. And I think that's just a solid protocol with any active buyer who's going to purchase within the next 6 months.
Now, Joe, you and I talked on Tuesday regarding Adam's question that he posted in the chat there.
Yep.
Which will probably, I'm guessing I'm sure that's happening to everybody, but that 10 days of pain, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the question was, what's a good script for when you actually get on the call with someone who's ghosted you, or maybe you've met them, and so on. Ian, do you have anything to speak to that?
Yeah, let me read this question one more time. Right. So the first thing that I'll say, and like I said, this is just kind of the approach I take too. It's something I like to keep in mind, is that our calls and our objection handlers, they're not Jedi mind tricks to force somebody to buy or sell. So those calls that you're having, you're either connecting with them to build rapport and figure out their timeline and figure out, why they ghosted you, or you're calling to provide them value. Like I said, one of the scripts I use is I'll say, hey, Joe, just giving you a call. I came across this property and thought of you and your family. I know that it checks a lot of your boxes. Are you guys, I know you may put your search on hold for a little bit, but I wanted to send it your way. Where are you guys at right now? Are you interested in this? Having those conversations to figure out why they stopped, why they ghosted you. it never has anything to do with you, right? It has to do with their timeline and what they're looking for. It rarely has anything to do with you unless you really screwed up, right? So
yeah, and this honestly comes down to basically the same thing as making a cold call on any lead in the past Zillow lead pond. Really, you're jumping on and you're just doing anything you can to get them to open up about why they were looking, what had them even considering purchasing a home. And really that looks like if I were to call Ian Haug here, who inquired a year ago on Zillow, I'd jump on the phone and say, hey, is this Ian?
Sure is.
Hey, Ian, my name is Joe. I'm a partner with Zillow. Just noticed that we've been working with you about 8 months back looking for a property. Did you ever end up finding anything?
Yeah, it's such a good script. It's just saying, Gino does the same thing. I've heard him do it a million times, and he has 25 sales this year, I think.
Yeah.
He calls in and says, hey, this is Ian with eXp Realty. I saw you were looking 8 months ago, and I was just wondering if you found what you were looking for.
And this is something you have to practice. Get in the mirror, start looking at your tonality, make sure your posture is good, walk around if you need to, anything you can, because your body language will dictate your tonality. And so points in the conversation where you actually lean in as if you're in person, even though it's over the phone, it makes an impact on how you come across to the buyer. And really, like I said, your goal is just to find out, okay, why were you looking? Okay, you just had 2 more kids in the last few years, and now you guys are super cramped. Okay, you're not selling them, you're selling them on basically a home with more space. If you're finding out somebody now transferred jobs and is now having a 45-minute commute, you're not selling them on a new home, you're selling them on a shorter commute. And so being able to find out why were they looking in the first place, were their needs ever met, and is there a way that you can come in and be the problem solver? Can you be the one who's going to say, hey, we're going to get this taken care of. We're going to find you a home with more space. We're going to find you a home with a bigger kitchen. We're going to find you a home that is in the neighborhood you're looking to be. Become that problem solver.
Yeah, I think Joe says it is, you say, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a problem solver. Is that right?
I'm not a product coach, I'm a problem solver.
There it is.
Love it. Can I ask real quick, Kelly, you have had a lot of, perked you up a little bit. She's had a lot of success with lately as well. And I think you had told me a lot of your leads were people you had just been working for a long period of time. Are you using kind of a similar tactic at all? Because I don't think all your deals were all of a sudden unicorns. You were nurturing your leads as well.
Well, I would say like 2 months. One I met like the beginning of June. And one I met like beginning of July, probably.
Okay,
so those recent ones weren't bad, but I will tell you, like, I've been on Zillow since 2019, and it is super important to nurture, and it's super important to really specifically nurture the people that you met in person and had good conversations with. And maybe they're just not quite ready. Now, most of these Zillow people are ready, but I mean, if they're out looking, like they've been thinking about it for a long time. So it is important to definitely pay it. Like right now I have like a bunch of people, or a handful of people that I met, January, February, March, that are like waiting. They're waiting till fall, specifically because they either need to save up money or they are working on some like a credit plan, something to that effect. So I have made sure to stay in touch with those people and the lender. And so they're all going to like probably pop this fall. So it is really important to, it's really also important to make lists like in FUB. And I have not been doing this, but in my previous, I have done like an ABC list, and I have that on my whiteboard. So, anything you can do to keep yourself organized and on top of nurturing those leads, however, whatever works for you is like a good thing to do, because it is true. If you don't stay top of mind, they go to a national night out and, you're looking for homes. Like I know somebody, so if you're not continuing that connection, they're going to go with somebody else for sure.
Yeah. That's a great point too, Kelly. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Along with that reminder, make sure you're leaving detailed notes in Follow Up Boss, because you will forget. 100%. And the day will come where you didn't leave notes and the reminder shows up and you go, I have no idea what I can do to help this client. And it's not a good look to call back and then, have to rehash the same conversation that you've already had and, you know, the information that they've already given you.
For sure. And I do lean on the Premier Agent app a lot. I do put a lot of notes in there as well. So but you're right. I'm really terrible. It's something that I've always been, you know, challenged with is the FUB thing. Yeah. But it's an
We're going to work more on that
tool.
We're going to work more on that in a couple of our future trainings. I know we need to wrap it up here because we're coming up on an hour, but Joe, you know, he's going to be sending out some emails as well about a couple follow-up trainings that are working our way down that list of metrics. Some of you might be on the invite list specifically, but anybody is welcome to attend, because if you're looking for ways to improve your conversion rate and get more leads coming your way, that's what these trainings are aimed to do. And we're bringing in the people who are the most successful in each of these categories to give you some hints and tips about what they're doing that is working right now. So with that said, I'll leave it to Joe so he can kind of close out for the day.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you for everyone joining today. Next week, we will be hosting Austin Hardy and Jennifer Casanova, and we'll be talking about that initial appointment of meeting them in person and best practices with that. And so I would love to see you all there. I think we offered a lot of value, and there's a couple follow-up steps that we'll be taking on this call of just providing resources to you guys to be able to increase your appointment set rate, as well as those CSAT and ALM scores. And so I think you all are awesome. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Appreciate all of your insight and everything too. You're doing a great job, and you're a dynamite, you know, person on our team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.